Hello there, my friend. Have you ever imagined yourself waking to a dawn that feels perfectly tailored to your own sleep cycle, as if the rising sun had been programmed just for you? Picture this: your bedroom walls gently glow with a hue that shifts from indigo to rose gold, while a soft trill of digital birdsong drifts from hidden speakers. You sense your eyelids fluttering not in panic, but in curious anticipation. While you're stretching those sleepy limbs, why don't you share your location and local time in the comments below? It's great to know how far my story can reach around the world. And if you genuinely enjoy this, please leave a subscribe. It will be a great motivation for me to create more stories like this. Now wind down, maybe close your eyes, get into your most comfortable position, and let's take a trip to future together. You feel the light pulse ever so slightly brighter, awakening a part of your brain that craves routine. Your body, in which roughly 60% of the volume is water, subtly shifts its internal chemistry in response to those warming rays, coaxing melatonin levels down and cortisol up, easing you into full consciousness without a jolt. That's because ambient light influences your circadian rhythm, syncing your sleep-wake cycle to a beat that bioengineers have only begun to understand. Scientists still argue whether the predictive models driving those LED arrays can really replicate the slow, imperceptible gradient of a natural sunrise, or if you'll forever miss the randomness of clouds drifting across the horizon. Tonight, you'll slip into bed knowing that at exactly the optimal moment, calculated by an AI that has analyzed your past 60 nights of slumber, meteorological forecasts, and even your calendar of tomorrow's calendar of meetings, it will fire up a simulation of dawn. The AI doesn't simply ramp light intensity linearly, it crafts a bespoke sequence of pastel gradients that resonate with your personal chronotype. You are an owl who drifts to sleep late, so your computerized dawn kicks off a little later, with cooler blue tones transitioning through peach until finally settling on a gentle golden glow that feels both novel and familiar. Your system also cues a 3-minute composition of white noise, bioluminescent insects, and faint electronic hums, woven together by generative audio algorithms. As you inhale, you might catch a hint of jasmine from a built-in diffuser that releases microbursts of essential oil, calibrated to enhance alertness without overwhelming your senses. The fragrance molecules reach your olfactory receptors in mere nanoseconds, mingling with serotonin pathways to remind your body that the day has begun. It feels almost magical, waking as if the universe conspired to cradle you, rather than jarring you awake with a blaring alarm. Yet behind that calm facade is a continuous feedback loop. Small sensors embedded in your mattress track micro-movements and heart rate variability, feeding data to the AI until it decides you're in the shallowest stage of sleep. Only then does the illumination sequence commence, minimizing the shock of transition. You recognize the faint glow creeping through your eyelids before you even open them. As the light intensifies, you stretch one arm toward the bedside console and notice the projected readout hovering above it. Optimal wake window, complete. You appreciate the gentle sarcasm of that phrase as if the machine is nudging you awake with a knowing wink. You might even whisper, "Thanks, buddy," before swinging your legs out of bed. When you step onto the floor, pressure-sensitive tiles gauge your weight and distribute a mild electrical pulse, so subtle you barely notice it, just to ensure you're truly upright. A soft chime follows, and the diffuser switches to a zesty citrus note. Your AI assistant announces, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Good morning, your day begins now," and streams your preferred motivational playlist. This experience isn't uniform across households. Some people install ceiling panels for overhead glow, others opt for bedside lamps. But the guiding principle remains: eliminate the jarring shock of alarms and replace it with a personalized dawn that respects the arc of your sleep. And yet you wonder if this ever-evolving choreography of light, scent, and sound might one day feel too perfect, so predictable that you long for the messy authenticity of an unscripted sunrise. Still, you can't deny the appeal of emerging from dreamscape as if being gently led by unseen hands. As you move toward the window, more for routine than function, you glimpse the real sky beyond your glass pane. Perhaps a sliver of pink cloud streaks the horizon, reminding you that while technology can approximate nature, it can never fully replace the ineffable unpredictability of a genuine dawn. You move from your LED-lit sanctuary into the kitchen, where the morning light simulation meets real-world utensils. Before you stands a sleek, glass-topped counter dotted with tiny docking bays, each cradling a wafer-thin nanobot capsule. You reach out, fingertips brushing the cool surface, and select the cognitive kickstart option. With a barely audible whir, the capsule pops free and tumbles into your glass of water. You watch as it dissolves into a barely perceptible shimmer, releasing microscopic drones programmed to deliver precisely the nutrients your body will need over the next few hours. As you lift the glass to your lips, you feel the liquid slide across your tongue, no gritty aftertaste. Just a whisper of citrus. Moments later, the first fleet of nanobots depart your stomach lining, entering your bloodstream. You imagine these little marvels as diabetic-sized submarines, each carrying vitamin complexes, amino acids, and tailored nootropics. They navigate your circulatory highways, consulting real-time data from your biometrics, heart rate variability, glucose levels, even your current stress hormone count, which, by this point, hovers at a gentle 5% above your nightly low. Some of the nanobots seek out your hippocampus, releasing microdoses of choline to sharpen your memory recall for the day's upcoming virtual meeting. Others dock at muscle fibers in your forearms, delivering a cocktail of branch-chain amino acids, engineered to prime you for that afternoon jog you scheduled in your calendar. They disperse their cargo with molecular precision, avoiding any spillover that could cause fatigue or a caffeine-like jitter. The choreography is so refined that you barely notice the internal adjustments, except for a growing sense of calm focus that lands somewhere between meditation and mild euphoria. While you stir your breakfast smoothie, the AI console above the counter displays a live map of your system. Tiny trails of light animate across an anatomically accurate avatar, showing nanobot traffic in your brain, heart, and digestive tract. A quick glance reassures you that the distribution is on track. 40% of your fleet has completed its mission, and the rest will disband into harmless bioresorbable components over the next 2 hours. You smirk at the dashboard's playful tagline, your inner courier service, arriving on time every time. The concept might feel plucked from sci-fi pulp, but the roots of nanomedicine lie in decades of research on targeted drug delivery. You remember reading that scientists have already tested microscopic lipid droplets to carry chemotherapy agents directly into tumors. Now, in 2030, everyday wellness kits borrow from those breakthroughs, miniaturizing the tech until it's as commonplace as your morning coffee. Or in this case, your caffeinated nootropic blend sans coffee beans. You hardly miss the bitter grind of beans grinding or the burned aroma. Here, convenience trumps ritual, though you still savor the ritual of selecting your nutritional profile. Your nanobot regimen adapts not just to your physiology but to external factors as well. The app on your wrist traces the pollen count outside and notes that your seasonal allergies might spike by midday. It instructs a subset of nanobots to release a mild antihistamine in advance, preventing you from sneezing through your afternoon video calls. Meanwhile, a forecast of lower atmospheric pressure hints at an oncoming headache for people with sinus sensitivity, so a few drones stand by with anti-inflammatory compounds should you need them. You're aware that there's a trade-off. This level of personalization demands constant data flow. Your breakfast beverage has effectively turned into a streaming service for your body's interior. But you shrug off the concern. After all, your daily dialysis of data powers this medical magic. If you have a rogue migraine, you'll be grateful to sip a quick headache shield capsule rather than rummage for pills. If your gym coach updates your workout plan mid-run, you count on a muscle-prepped nanoswarm to hit your muscles before the cool-down lull. As you finish your smoothie, you glance at the communal herb garden growing under bioluminescent strips on the window ledge, an ironic nod to older forms of nutrition sourcing. Interspersed between basil and mint are modular hydroponic pods housing microgreens. They offer a tactile contrast to the invisible nanobot regime, greens you can grasp, nibble, and sense the fresh chlorophyll bitterness. But today, you bypass them, trusting the encapsulated invisible workforce. Your attention shifts to the coffee maker, which stands silent. It's been relegated to backup duty, for those rare days when you crave the communal brew aroma or when you need the caffeine jolt instead of the tailored nootropic. You remember when you first tasted barista-crafted espresso, the ritual of grinding beans, the hiss of steam, the artful crema. You miss it in a wistful way, but you also appreciate that these days, time is measured differently, down to your millisecond-dependent synapse responsiveness. A soft chime intrudes. Your next nanobot delivery window is open. You've scheduled a metabolism boost capsule for just before lunch. It slides into another dock, dissolving silently. Inside, a second wave of drones prepare to calibrate your appetite for the midday meal, releasing leptin-mimicking agents if you're on a calorie-controlled plan or insulin-modulating peptides if you're leaning toward a carb-rich feast. You marvel at the idea that even your hunger can be fine-tuned with surgical molecular accuracy. You pause to admire how natural this all feels. A decade ago, this would have sounded like a wild fantasy full of ethical quandaries. Do you trust the corporations controlling your internal biochemistry? What about the privacy of your metabolic data? But now, with user agreements condensed into concise AI-readable contracts, you scroll once, accept the terms, and proceed without a second thought. It's shockingly frictionless. As your bloodstream hums with microscopic couriers, you notice a light hum from the refrigerator. Your next snack of cultured yogurt and lab-grown berries awaits within. Even that has been tweaked. The berries underwent CRISPR edits to enhance antioxidant properties. You consider grabbing them, but instead you head out the door, feeling energized in a way that blends calm concentration with a subtle, underlying vitality. Every bite, every sip from dawn until dusk, is choreographed at a molecular level to support this fluid, connected life you lead. You step onto your balcony for a breath of morning air, filtered through the building's bioreactive panels that scrub particulates. You inhale deeply, grateful for the contrast between the indoor precision of nanobot nutrition and the messy, unpredictable gift of fresh oxygen. In that moment, you appreciate both worlds, the invisible guardians tending every cell, and the wild sky beyond your windowsill, offering a reminder that for all this engineered elegance, life still thrives in the unprogrammed edges. You leave the kitchen and drift into what used to be called the living room, though in 2030 it's more of a climate shell, a precisely controlled cocoon that buffers your fragile, flesh-and-bone self from the chaos of external weather. Outside, the climate doesn't gently change from season to season anymore. Now it pings and jolts. You've got heatwaves in October, freezing fogs in May, and torrential rains arriving in rhythmic pulses that some meteorologists have stopped trying to predict altogether. But inside your capsule, it's always just right. You pause as the entry pad scans your vitals again, and the system responds with a subtle shift in airflow. The humidity drops by 3%. The temperature ticks up half a degree, and a faint burst of eucalyptus settles into the air. A quiet puff, barely noticed. Your toes feel a bit chilly? The floor adjusts to warm your soles. The environment has been taught to love you, in its own quiet algorithmic way. You sit down in your reading nook, a memory foam pod you customized last year, and glance at the exterior wall. With a touch, it changes from its restful matte gray to a digital projection of a bamboo forest swaying gently in a pretend breeze. It's hard to say whether it calms you because it looks beautiful or because your assistant has flagged your cortisol levels as mildly elevated. Maybe both. Either way, you watch a golden leaf flutter to the digital forest floor, and you take a breath that feels deeper than usual. Climate shell homes were once luxury prototypes, but now they're necessity. Your city's ambient temperature has hit unsafe highs too often for comfort, and indoor microclimates are how most people stay functioning. Buildings across the block all have shimmering skins, reactive panels that thicken when UV spikes, that hum softly when they're pulling moisture from the air, that whisper data to one another as they optimize the neighborhood's thermal balance. You don't miss weather, exactly. But you do miss the sound of rain on rooftops. Now, when it rains, it's more of an event, sudden, aggressive, and usually accompanied by alerts. You can simulate rain inside, of course. Today, you've got a soft Pacific drizzle setting looping in the background. It's purely aesthetic, a soundtrack with just the right amount of patter. You like to imagine people in 2020 listening to Rio rain, unaware of how rare that kind of soft, unscheduled nature would one day become. Outside, people walk in thermoreflective cloaks, some with microfans stitched into the collars. Others opt for personal shade drones, umbrellas that hover just overhead, tracking UV index in real time. You used one last week. It got caught in a sudden crosswind and spun dramatically into a street lamp. You chuckled, slightly embarrassed, then realized nobody else noticed, because everyone else was dealing with their own heat-adaptive tools. Even your dog, well, your neighbor's dog that you part-time co-care for, wears a climate collar now. It monitors paw heat, hydration, and air quality. It vibrates gently if the air is too dusty. You once had to wipe his paws with an electrostatic cloth after a particularly smoky day. He hated it. But you could see in his eyes that he understood the trade, discomfort now, survival later. You rise from the nook and glide to the back wall. A second window brightens at your presence, revealing the controlled greenhouse zone of your building's shared garden. It looks like Eden in there, fruiting vines, citrus trees, and floor beds of moss. It's not outside exactly, but it smells green, and that's enough. Only 10 people can be inside at once to preserve the air mix, so you reserve your half hour like it's a fine dining experience. Your building regulates everything, from particulate infiltration to atmospheric pressure. You're told it reduces cardiovascular strain. You're told that the optimal internal air pressure is now set slightly higher than sea level, to prevent the sluggishness people often feel in poor conditions. You're told many things, and you believe some of them, because they keep you feeling good. Mostly. And because it's better than the alternative. Sometimes, when you walk down the street to fetch a physical delivery, yes, those still exist, you cross into an unregulated air pocket. You feel it immediately. Your breath tightens, your skin prickles, your senses dull just a bit. You glance around and see others notice it too. A shared shrug runs through the crowd, as if to say, well, we've made it this far. Then you re-enter your climate shell, and the discomfort melts away like fog in sunlight. It's not all defense, of course. Sometimes the climate shell rewards you. You've earned 4 comfort credits this week for walking instead of taking the pod transit. So today, the system lets you enjoy a Mediterranean coastline breeze through your personal vents. It smells faintly of olive groves and salted stone. You chuckle. Somewhere in the cloud, your preference for coastal nostalgia has been noticed, stored, and now lovingly deployed. You didn't ask for it. But the algorithm remembers. You recall a time when people used to check the weather every morning, unsure what shoes to wear. Now, shoes are the same year-round, water-resistant, temperature-regulating, smart-soled. The only real question is whether you're going out at all. Most days you don't. Most days you stay in your climate shell and let the world come to you, pixel by pixel, controlled degree by degree. Even the birds that used to chirp outside your window, those few that remain, have largely relocated to the vertical forest domes outside city limits. You sometimes stream their song tracks into your living space. It's not quite the same, but again, you tell yourself it's close enough. And most days it really is. You return to your nook, where the projection has shifted to a snowy pine forest. You didn't request that, but your AI knows the news was mildly stressful this morning and snow triggers calmness in your neural patterns. You settle in again, watching fake snowflakes fall in high resolution, while the air around you warms just enough to make the cold look feel safe, not biting. And that, in the end, is the goal of the climate shell, not just comfort, but safety wrapped in sensory illusion. You exist in a curated season, one that never asks too much of your body or brain. Outside may be a fluctuating, fire-prone mess, but inside this shell, you are gently, lovingly deceived. You pull on your work outfit, if it can be called that, and prepare to clock in. It's more of a uniform for the camera, really, soft fabric, all neutral tones, lined with texture that flatters under artificial light. The pants are technically pajama grade, and your slippers. Well, no one ever sees your feet, do they? But the shirt has structure, and the collar lays just right under the neck filter your avatar renders during calls. You glance at yourself in the mirror and nod. You look both alert and approachable. Professional, without looking like you tried. Work in 2030 doesn't mean leaving the house unless you absolutely have to. For you, it means settling into the soft cradle of your desk pod, which reclines slightly as your body lowers into it, perfectly aligning with your eye-tracking screen and vocal filters. You mumble a few vocal warm-ups, and the pod's acoustic foam absorbs your voice as gently as a hug. Then you activate the avatar. There you are, sort of. It's you, but better rested, slightly more symmetrical, eyes a little brighter than they ever get without assistance. Your facial expressions are subtly amplified for clarity. A gentle smile lingers a half-second longer. Eyebrows lift slightly higher when you're pretending to care. You don't control this. The AI observes your micro-expressions and smooths them out, making your presence emotionally legible, which is code for making you more likable in 2D. The client logs on. They're in Tokyo, maybe. Or Nairobi. Or a mixed-use space orbiting just above the equator. You don't ask. You greet them with the tone you've practiced, a warm neutrality that's perfect for international calls. No strong idioms. No sarcasm that won't translate. Just that soft, oatmeal-like cadence of polite global capitalism. Your job? Problem-solving consultant. You spend your days untangling supply chain hiccups for synthetic fiber producers or walking clients through anti-deepfake insurance upgrades. It all blurs together, honestly. Most of your work is about reducing friction between departments, between software updates, between the people and their increasingly autonomous tools. Mid-call, your AI sends you subtle nudges in the corner of your eye. Use empathetic phrasing, reinforce confidence, client cortisol up 8%, slow pace. You obey without thinking. It's all choreography now. You're like an actor with a script that writes itself in real time, molded by metrics you barely notice anymore. And just like that, another 45-minute call ends. The client smiles, thanks you, and signs off. You know that smile wasn't real either. Their avatar glitched slightly when they did it. Cheek twitched too high, eyelid blinked with odd timing. It was their stand-in, just like yours. You recline for a moment, letting your pod support you as a low hum begins. The office-wide neutral reset tone. Just a sound, low and barely perceptible, that helps recalibrate your brainwaves after meetings. You remember how workplaces used to have snack breaks. Now they have binaural recalibration. Work-life balance is a bit of a joke, but not in a stressful way. More in the sense that it's all one blended smoothie of half labor and half leisure. You've attended meetings from a bath before. You've reviewed contracts while stir-frying dinner. It's not multitasking. It's existence. It's your time being kneaded gently into productivity by ambient nudges and invisible expectations. You spend a moment staring at your productivity dashboard, focus index, emotional responsiveness score, avatar engagement sync, all hovering near excellent. You're rewarded with a digital confetti burst and 12 efficiency tokens. You trade those later for free mental wellness sessions or AI-written birthday cards for friends you never see in person anymore. The truth is, jobs today aren't what they used to be. You've read about the 9-to-5 grind, the fluorescent lights, the managers who shouted across open-plan offices. Now, most people freelance for corporatized AIs or juggle side gigs across 3 continents. You even know someone whose only job is testing relaxation algorithms. He spends his entire day laying in various states of simulated comfort. You envy him only slightly. Sometimes you miss tangible work. Work you could point to and say, I made that. But the world doesn't reward hands-on anymore. It rewards low latency, clear facial expressions, and optimized feedback loops. Your job is to be agreeable and hyperlucid, to lubricate the digital gears so nobody gets stuck. That's not nothing. It just doesn't leave many fingerprints. After your third meeting, you pause for your mind buffer, a scheduled 4-minute mental break enforced by your wellness protocol. You close your eyes and a soft chime plays, followed by a curated memory replay. Today it's that morning you spent watching wind turbines off the coast last spring. Seagulls. Gray-blue waves. The faint creak of metal and sea breeze. You didn't ask for that memory, but it soothes you nonetheless. Your productivity score inches higher. Later you'll review some reports written mostly by generative AIs. You'll add your human gloss, a few jokes, some intentional ambiguity, maybe an emoji or two to make it feel less machine-made. Clients love that. They need to feel someone was there, even if that someone spent 3 minutes scanning and 2 minutes formatting. You stretch and pull up the afternoon's calendar, a virtual reality sync with colleagues from 3 time zones. You groan, but only mildly. The VR suit is lightweight these days, and your shared environment, a cozy alpine chalet with infinite snacks and digital puppies, makes meetings almost pleasant. You wonder briefly what people in the past would think of this. You sitting here, surrounded by comfort, doing work through a stylized mask with data-breathing goggles. Would they be envious? Horrified? Maybe both. You smirk. You think they'd be mostly confused by how boring it all looks. But you know better. This isn't boring. It's calibrated peace. You log off for lunch. A pleasant hum greets you from the kitchen. Your avatar remains behind, programmed to maintain casual presence on the work channel, just in case someone stops by. It can handle polite banter, answer generic queries, and even tell your favorite anecdote about that trip to Mars you took in a simulation once. You're grateful for the break. Not because you're tired exactly, but because maintaining presence is its own kind of labor. Smiling, even with help, is still something you have to do. You slip into your VR suit with the practiced ease of someone donning slippers, sleek fabric molding to your skin, sensors clicking into place around your wrists and ankles. A faint hiss of pressurized air surrounds you as the seal completes, cocooning your senses. Moments later, you're transported to the floaty amphitheater of the endless workspace, where dozens of avatars, more polished versions of real people, drift among holographic whiteboards. Conversations ripple through the virtual air like gentle eddies in a calm pond. There's something comforting about the way your avatar's shoulders relax when you settle into a simulated plush seat. You breathe in the lightly perfumed air, your personal preference of sandalwood mixed with mint, and let your vision adjust. On the screens hovering around you, spreadsheets unfurl, mind maps expand, slide decks cascade in soft pastel tones. The entire room feels like a minimalist Zen garden designed by a corporate retreat expert. Your first meeting begins. A colleague's avatar materializes beside you, a semi-transparent figure wearing a tailored blazer, glowing edges faintly tracing their silhouette. You greet them with that well-practiced nod and wave, movements smoothed by the suit's haptic filters. You're here to discuss next quarter's performance projections, but your mind flickers to the real world just beyond the VR boundary. Your kitchen, your living room, the press of the real sun falling through your apartment window. You can sense all that, even as you navigate this dreamlike workspace. These virtual meetings have become so ubiquitous that experts still predict they'll replace in-person gatherings entirely by 2035. Yet you sometimes wonder whether the immersive environment actually enhances collaboration, or if it quietly erodes the simple human joy of sharing a coffee steam swirl or catching someone's offhand joke. Scientists still argue whether constant VR exposure rewires your brain's reward centers, making real-world interactions feel flat by comparison. Midway through the call, the system picks up on a slight dip in your vocal tone and projects a gentle encouragement. Your insights are valued. Please share. You respond, voice steady, as your avatar leans forward and your virtual pen glides across a projection of the meeting minutes. You notice your heart rate creep upward by 2 beats per minute, barely noticeable but enough for the AI to log as engagement. A soft congratulatory ping scores you a minor social connectivity token. You glance at the virtual windows behind the speaker's dais. Animated vistas of distant planets, underwater reef sceneries, even serene mountain peaks. Today, you're in an emerald-lit rainforest, mist curling around oversized ferns. It's a soothing backdrop, chosen algorithmically based on last week's stress markers. You can almost hear distant bird calls threaded into the ambient soundscape, though it's all synthetic. When someone shares a report, it appears as a semi-solid object hovering between you and your colleague. You tap it with a gentle finger gesture, another feature of your suit, and it expands into a full 3D model of supply chain flows. You rotate it, zoom in on a node where costs unexpectedly spiked, then annotate it with a quick voice command. Your avatar's hand leaves behind glowing ink that floats momentarily before fading into the shared virtual workspace. After 20 minutes, the conversation drifts into more social outskirts. Weekend plans, a new virtual art exhibit, someone's adorable AI-generated puppy. You participate dutifully, your avatar's smile widening at precisely the right moment, even though your real lips remain relaxed. You appreciate the calibration. These social touchpoints keep teams cohesive, or so they say. But then the meeting extends. Longer than scheduled. You feel the tug in your neck as the suit's posture-correcting frame reminds you to sit erect. A subtle vibration along your spine nudges you. Time check. 2 hours elapsed. You glance at the time, or at least a projection of what time it is in the real world. Number hovering just above the virtual dais. You realize you haven't moved your real body in what feels like half a lifetime. Your vision flickers momentarily, an artifact of prolonged immersion, and you blink to reset it. A small warning icon appears in your peripheral view. Consider a 5-minute offload break. You dismiss it. Meetings overrun all the time. You grit your teeth as another speaker begins outlining a slide deck about optimized fuel cells. You swallow, replaying last night's dream of walking barefoot through actual grass. At one point, someone's avatar tilts sideways, glitching nearly imperceptibly before correcting itself. You catch yourself smiling at the odd digital hiccup. The reminder that this entire environment is constructed code. You think about how, soon, you might forget the difference between this synthetic interaction and the warmth of a real handshake, the unpredictability of another person's laughter unfiltered by algorithms. Finally, the meeting reaches its end. The host thanks everyone, and the room dissolves in waves of pastel mist. You stand, real muscles adjusting to your upright stance, and feel the gentle release of compression from the suit. When you remove the headset, your eyes blink into the ambient glow of your apartment. You catch your reflection on the glass of a framed artwork, the same person, but somehow different. You feel slightly unmoored, your mind buzzing with data threads, your heart still pulsing to the rainforest soundtrack. You shuffle to the window, peel fresh air into your lungs, and try to ground yourself. A real breeze brushes your skin, and you close your eyes, remembering the static temperature of your climate shell. You take a moment, just a heartbeat longer than usual, to let reality reclaim its edges before the next VR call lures you back. You step away from the VR rig and pad across your apartment to the wall-mounted analytics console humming softly in its recessed niche. A honeycomb of status lights pulses, green for all clear, amber for attention and red for action required. You hesitate, fingertips brushing the glass before you activate the display. In a moment, a layered dashboard unfolds, revealing the intimate ledger of your body's metrics: heart rate variability, cortisol fluctuations, glucose swings, and even neurocoherence scores. All of it streamed in real time from sensors woven into your clothing, your pillow, your toothbrush, and that slim band tucked just under your hairline. It's astonishing, and disquieting, how much of you has become data. Each breath you take is recorded as a waveform. Each blink registers as a micro break in ocular endurance. Your console cheerfully annotates minor deviations in your posture, welcomes anomalies in your thermoregulation, and flags anything that drifts outside your pre-approved comfort zone. Here's your day in biometrics, it seems to say, complete with highlights reel. You recall the contract you clicked through last year, 100 pages of legalese distilled into 3 AI-readable clauses. You barely skimmed them. After all, you trusted your city's data privacy authority. Then again, every time you agree to a privacy update, that authority bends a little more in favor of corporate consortium standards. You wonder where your health data really goes. Does it stay in that locked-down personal cloud, or does it flow, anonymized and aggregated, into the grand experiments of pharmatech? You don't know. You don't ask. Your console pin controls each data stream, turn off biometric sharing, disable neural scans, revoke location logs. But every toggle you flip comes with a cost. You watch as your wellness score dips by 5 points, and your comfort credit balance shrinks accordingly. The system warns, disabling heart rate monitoring may reduce your personalized climate adjustments. You weigh the trade-off. Privacy feels precious. But so does that perfect nap the AI schedules for you each afternoon, the one that boosts your focus index by nearly 12%. You slide a finger over the location tracking switch. It flickers off, and the console flashes. Emergency alerts may be delayed. Do you want to proceed? You hesitate. A part of you loves the idea of vanishing in digital shadows, no one mapping your routes, no advertisers pinging you with nearby offers. But another part freezes at the thought of not getting an instant warning when poor air quality spikes or when a flash flood warning blinks red across your phone. You stab at confirm, then wince as you watch your safety assurance rating fall. You'd like to imagine yourself as a fighter for personal sovereignty, refusing the ceaseless gaze of corporate eyes. But the truth is, you chill out more when you know someone, something, is watching for you. When your blood pressure creeps above your baseline, the AI embalms you in a micro-adjusted pulse of lavender-scented mist. Your sleep coach pops up on your bedside projection with a reminder, book tomorrow's wellness session. You obey without debate. It's all so simple, so frictionless. You trace your finger through the menu to neural interface logging. The console warns, disabling thought pattern analysis may limit future AI coaching accuracy. You picture the tiny electrodes in your implant measuring your stress spikes, reading your emotional valence, mapping your creative bursts. You think of the first time you felt that gentle hum in your skull during a bad dream, and how the next morning your sleep report noted possible unresolved anxieties and suggested a 5-minute guided breathing session. It felt invasive, yet the breathing session worked. Your fingertip hovers above the reject option. You want to flick it off, but you can't bring yourself to. Each metric feels like a tether connecting you both to vulnerability and to resilience. You imagine the older days, people locked their doors, tucked letters in safes, distrusted any phone call from unknown numbers. Now, trust is everywhere. You trust that the building's sensors will keep you from slipping on a spill outside. You trust that your implant will mute panic surges. You trust the system to keep you afloat. Still, you wonder how the corporations use these intimate streams of data. You've glimpsed briefings on aggregate trend reports showing common stressors among city dwellers, then sketches of targeted interventions, pop-up misting stations here, sidewalk foot massage panels there. You've heard rumors of health credits that reward citizens for hitting biometric milestones, traded for discounted transit or cheaper insurance. It's gamified compliance, biogamification at its most literal. You decide to test the boundaries. You disable your sleep tracker for one night. Do you want to risk less optimized REM cycles? It asks. You tap yes, and the console shrieks, digitally of course, in bright magenta, warning, tomorrow's fall asleep playlist may not sync to your brainwaves. You smirk at the defiance. It's a small victory. You go to bed, earphones filled with classical guitar, and cuddle into the pillow you bought before your headboard sensors were installed. When you wake the next morning, you feel almost ordinary. Not terrible, but not transcendent either. Your eyes feel heavier, and you wrestle with the interface to silence the dawn simulation after it startled you awake a little too abruptly. Later, your console scolds you, suboptimal sleep detected. Wellness score -3. You shrug. It hurts a bit in your gut, that numeric chide. You realize you missed the embrace of being perfectly managed. Privacy feels like a heavy weight you once carried but now can't quite lift without missing the comfort of the net beneath. You flick through the metrics again, flipping nothing back on, except location, because your morning step challenge credits depend on it. And the world outside beckons more today than the console's courtly miniatures. You'll venture out, feel your unfiltered breath catch on cool air, maybe catch the faint odor of city life unmediated by filters, as you step into the hallway. The console fades from view behind you. You feel barely exposed, like stepping from cloakroom into storm. Your balcony door awaits, promising fresh, untamed wind. You cross the room, and with one push, the crystal-clear pane slides open to a breath of real sky. The console chirps in protest. A final "do you really want to lose" personalized scent diffusion pops up on your wrist. You ignore it. Your lungs fill, and for the first time in days, you feel the weight of your own solitary chest rising and falling, untouched by algorithms, unmeasured by metrics, wholly, beautifully yours. You step off the soft carpet of your lobby and onto the sidewalk outside, where the world's pavement feels less like stone and more like a living network. Each slab beneath your feet whispers with embedded pressure sensors, shining a faint bioluminescent edge as you pass. It's as if the ground itself is acknowledging your presence, adjusting the ambient glow, and even the scent wafting from buried scent diffusers, subtle jasmine for early risers, mint for midday walkers, and lavender for evening wanderers. You hardly notice the change. It's been happening since you started living here, a gentle nudge toward comfort without you ever needing to think. But these nudges aren't only about sensory delight. Every step you take is logged by your city's mesh of footfall detectors, passing data through streetlight beacons that hum with low-energy pulses. Your route, mapped, anonymized, and instantly aggregated, is used to shape the city's flow. When the sensors detect a surge of morning walkers on Maple Avenue, the smart crosswalk extends its green light by 2 seconds. When the footfall dips near the public library, mobile book truck drones float in for pop-up readings, enticing passers-by with interactive poetry holograms. The city learns from your path, and in turn it persuades you to take new ones. You follow your habitual way, a turn at the lavender-scented lamp, a gentle incline where the sidewalk tilts just enough to massage the soles of your smart soles, shoes that record your gait and feed back minor adjustments to your posture app. You appreciate the sensation of those micro-massages. They feel like a spa treatment for your feet. You remember pre-2030 sidewalks. Cold, hard, indifferent. Now, each step is a moment of subtle care. Mid-walk, you notice a soft chime from your wrist display, suggested route to increase daily steps by 5%. It's accompanied by a softly pulsing arrow overlaid in your glasses, guiding you along an alley lined with living walls dripping with greenery. You follow it almost without realizing, lured by curiosity and a tiny promise of extra wellness credits that you can trade for an evening streetlight poetry reading. The alley is quieter, the air cooler, and you take a deeper breath, feeling a small thrill at deviating from your usual path. The living walls are not just decorative. They're part of the city's ecological breathing system, filtering particulates while displaying a slow cascade of morning dew in their LED veins. You stop to touch the porous surface, cool, damp, almost alive. A sensor registers your interest and whispers a polite prompt into your earbuds. Enjoying the moss wall? Consider a 15-minute micro break in the adjacent pocket park. You smile. The park is but 20 steps away, a tiny square of dappled shade, its benches warmed by latent solar panels. You sit, and the bench hums a gentle vibration calibrated to reduce your muscle tension. These street-level nudges keep you moving, keep you healthy, and keep you engaged with your environment. But sometimes you wonder if they also keep you too compliant. The city subtly rewards you for choices that align with planners' goals: less car use, more foot traffic in retail corridors, or visits to designated community hubs where you earn social points by chatting with neighbors. It's never coercive, it's just gentle guidance, like the soft tap of a friend's shoulder directing you toward a hidden cafe. As you stand to continue, the bench releases a faint release of chamomile scent, bidding you farewell. You resume walking, and the bulbs embedded in the pavement shift hue from soft morning gold to a cool turquoise, matching the algorithm's assessment that your internal clock prefers a midday cool-down. You note the shift but feel only a subtle sense of relief, as though the color change eased a tension you didn't know you had. Ahead, you spot a cluster of people lingering under a lamppost. The lamppost is broadcasting a public art prompt: share a memory of this neighborhood. A few folks speak into handheld mics. Their words appear as floating text ribbons above the lampost's corona. You decide to join in, leaning against the post and sharing a whisper of a childhood recollection: running here barefoot, chasing fireflies. As your voice trails off, the ribbons twirl overhead, and you see your memory etched among theirs. You feel connected, even though you're mostly alone, buffered in your climate shell and curated data streams. You glance at your wrist again. Social engagement, 2 points. Local preference, hidden pocket park. It's absurdly transparent. You realize you're as much a citizen as you are a resource in an ever-learning urban organism. And yet, the organism feels nourishing rather than predatory. You inhale the mix of jasmine, moss, and distant coffee aroma from a corner cafe that advertised itself as data-neutral brewing. No loyalty app required, just the soft promise of authenticity. At the cafe's threshold, a soft arch of light guides you inside. You order a decaf almond milk latte, and the barista, a human, not an avatar, smiles at you. You hand over a physical coin token, the community cup token you earned by visiting the pocket park and sharing your memory. It clinks pleasantly on the counter. You sip the latte, feeling the velvety warmth smooth across your tongue. It's comforting to interact without digital mediation, to trade in a token you can hold. As you step back onto the sidewalk, your glasses highlight an alternate route, scenic detour for visual variety. The route weaves between storefronts and a canal-side walkway. You follow it, ears attuned to the faint gurgle of water and the scent of lilies growing in hydrophilic planters. You marvel at how every sense feels engaged: the gentle breeze stirred by canal pumps, the soft echo of footsteps over spaced docking platforms. This route is longer, yes, but you think you'll do it anyway. The city has persuaded you, but in return, you've found delight in details you'd never noticed before. Halfway through, your shoes buzz. Your posture app detects a slight lean forward. It prompts: adjust alignment to reduce knee strain. You shift your weight back, feeling the subtle massage of the smart insoles realigning your steps. It's a small tweak, but afterwards your stride feels more fluid, more effortless. The sidewalks around you carry on glowing softly, guiding you to the end of this detour near a small plaza where a kinetic sculpture rotates in the breeze. You approach the plaza, and the sculpture's blades catch the wind, casting moving shadows across the ground. You stand among them, watching the patterns dance. Your glasses overlay data points: blade speed, wind velocity, predicted next rotation. You ignore the stats and simply watch, finding in the mechanical simplicity a moment of pure calm. As you finally head toward your destination, a co-working cafe tucked into a repurposed railway station, you reflect on how every turn and every sensory cue today has been orchestrated. Yet you feel more present, more attuned to your surroundings than you ever did before. Each nudge, each recommendation, each colored tile underfoot has drawn you deeper into a dialogue with the city, making you both participant and curator of your own journey. You step through the cafe's door, ready for your next appointment, and feel that familiar warmth of being guided yet free. The sensor in the doorway welcomes you back, adjusts the music volume, and signals to the barista to prepare your favorite tea blend. You settle in, grateful for a system that persuades without pressure, that cultivates delight in the tiniest details of your daily walk. And as you sip your tea, you realize that voiceless conversation between you and the city has become the softest soundtrack to your life, one gentle suggestion at a time. You settle into the ergonomic curve of your living room pod as the midday sun filters through your climate-controlled window. On the wall-mounted holoscreen, your AI life consultant materializes, an amiable avatar dressed in soft neutrals, radiating calm competence. "Good afternoon," it says, voice modulated to your most comforting frequency. "How are you feeling today? Would you like guidance on any personal or professional matters?" It's a polite invitation, as if a close friend were offering free advice, except this friend has parsed decades of behavioral science, economic forecasts, and your personal data archives. You pause, swirling the last warm sips of your decaf almond latte. You could ask about your afternoon work strategy, or optimize your evening social plans. But today you're curious about something more subtle, your creative energy. You tap the life goals icon, and a gentle wave of pastel light washes across the wall. The AI consultant leans forward in its projection, as though to emphasize its focus. Your creative engagement score is slightly below your long-term average, it observes. "Would you like recommendations for boosting inspiration?" You nod, and within half a second, several options appear: a guided painting session in your VR art studio, a curated playlist of Saxon folk ballads, or a suggested appointment at the new Idea Incubator co-working space downtown. Each suggestion comes with predicted uplift percentages for your creativity metric and estimated time commitments. You study them briefly, weighing the trade-offs. You choose the painting session. As you confirm, the consultant asks if you'd like to pre-schedule reminders and ambient conditions. You agree, and it arranges for soft daylight simulation, a faint scent of cedar, and the gentle hum of a pottery kiln in the background. "I'll set a timer for 90 minutes, it says. "Shall I pause your deep work notifications until then?" You accept, and your personal do not disturb status illuminates on the hollow screen with a lavender halo. The AI shifts topics fluidly. "Would you like an update on your projected energy levels for the rest of the day?" Your circadian forecast suggests a brief dip around 5 p.m. It displays a timeline showing your anticipated alertness curve. You glance at it and plan accordingly, finish your report by 4:30, then transition into a leisurely walk or a cooking lesson. You're impressed by how seamlessly the consultant structures your day, sealing idle gaps and smoothing potential stress points. Yet you catch yourself wondering how much of this is truly your choice. The AI's suggestions are based on probabilities calculated from millions of data points, your own past behaviors, those of people in your demographic, and outcomes from thousands of similar interventions. It feels like having an omniscient personal assistant who always knows what you'd probably want next. But sometimes you wish for a perfectly bad idea to slip through the algorithm's filters, a spontaneous detour unpredicted by any model. Still, you appreciate the frictionless ease of it all. You think back to times when planning a weekend required browsing event listings, Googling reviews, coordinating with friends. Now, the consultant handles all of that. You could ask it to summarize local events matching your mood profile, then reserve tickets, send invites, and even program your commuting pod to arrive 10 minutes early. All you need to do is show up. Today, however, you lean into creative solitude. You move toward your VR art studio, and the painting session loads around you, a white-walled loft with a single easel, a stool, and racks of virtual paints. The AI consultant's voice fades out, replaced by a soft instrumental track tailored to sustain focus. You reach for a brush and dip it in a virtual smudge of ochre. The simulation tracks your brushstroke pressure, hue preferences, and composition patterns, adjusting the canvas responsiveness to encourage you toward more dynamic strokes. It's like painting with digital memory foam, where the material itself supports your impulses. After 15 minutes, the system logs your flow state quite high and whispers a prompt: consider experimenting with your non-dominant hand for an unexpected perspective. It's a playful suggestion, nudging you beyond comfortable habits. You switch hands and feel a momentary awkward thrill as the brush wobbles between your fingers. Soon you rediscover a fresh sense of discovery in every line. You smile. When you set the brush down 90 minutes later, you've produced an abstract landscape that surprises you with its raw texture and unexpected color shifts. You step back, studying the virtual canvas, and a small notification floats by. Creative output. Score 8.7 out of 10. Great work. You might have balked at this years ago. Who wants art judged by a number? But the gentle encouragement feels more like a pat on the back than a critique. Your hollow screen lights up again. And the AI consultant reappears. Fantastic session, it says. Your creative spark is back in full force. Would you like me to share your work with your peer group or archive it privately? You choose to archive it. This one feels personal. You thank the consultant, and it bows its head in projection before vanishing. You lean back in your pod, eyelids blinking slowly as you savor the afterglow. You feel a curious blend of ownership and orchestration. Yes, you created that painting, but you also let algorithms guide you there. The synergy feels gratifying, and a bit uncanny. Your wrist chimes. Time for hydration break. The consultant anticipated you'd need to rehydrate after an immersive session. You stand and pour a glass of water, the dispenser adding a calibrated pinch of electrolytes. You sip and feel the cool fluid slide down your throat. You glance at the hollow screen. Your energy projections remain strong through the early evening, and your mood stability index just ticked up. You consider asking the consultant for dinner suggestions. You're in the mood for something hearty but healthy. Maybe a virtual cooking class in your kitchen pod. But you pause, sensing that here's a moment to decide without digital prompts, to remember what it's like to just be hungry and wander the kitchen for inspiration, rather than following a curated recipe. You sigh, then dismiss the chime. You'll figure dinner out the old-fashioned way tonight. As you walk toward the refrigerator, you realize how rare it is to override the consultant's suggestions. A smaller voice inside you wonders if that's a loss, this small act of choice. Then another voice counters that you've already made dozens of choices today via AI prompts, and that this minor rebellion is more symbolic than substantive. You open the door and peek inside. There's cultured pasta dough, lab-grown mushrooms, algae-based cheese substitutes, and a few handfuls of leftover microgreens. You close your eyes, inhale that gentle scent of mustard seed pods in the bottom drawer, and instinctively reach for the pasta. You grab the mushrooms, chop them by hand on the coarse wood-cutting board you insisted on buying last year, and toss them into a pan. You hear the sizzle, feel the heat rise, and smile at the simplicity of it. Later, you plate your meal under the soft track lighting, sprinkle microgreens, and drizzle a ribbon of olive oil-infused lab-grown truffle essence. You taste it and savor the texture. No algorithm nudged you here, it was just your own palate, your muscle memory, your instincts. You eat slowly, mindful of each bite, feeling quietly triumphant at your small culinary creation. Your AI consultant chimes in from the hollow screen. Dinner looks delightful. Can I log your meal for nutritional tracking? You respond, no thanks. I prefer this one untracked. The consultant offers a polite bow and fades away. You finish your dinner feeling content, a blend of guided experiences and self-crafted moments. You realize that in a world of soft nudges and AI roadmaps, the greatest luxury may be the freedom to stray off course occasionally. And that small choice tastes exactly how you remember it, unscripted, imperfect, and wholly yours. You step outside into the plaza's gentle bustle, and as you inhale, you become aware that even your breath is part of the city's grand marketplace. Every lungful of air registers with a sensor grid above, discrete receivers woven into the streetlights and cafe canopies. Those sensors measure particulate levels, carbon isotopes, humidity, and crucially, the volume of CO2 each passerby exhales. In 2030, your respiratory output is no longer a private biological reflex but a traceable contribution to a vast, automated carbon credit economy. When you first learned about it, you thought it sounded absurd, trading the air you breathe like some form of futuristic currency. Yet here you are, watching your wrist display tally breath credits in real time. You've earned a modest surplus by cycling to work and by breathing through a microfilter mask that captures more carbon before you exhale it. Those captured molecules are sequestered in street-level storage pods, later processed into synthetic graphite or industrial feedstocks. The credits you accrue can be sold to corporations that need to offset their own emissions, or you can spend them on city perks, extra minutes of ambient cooling, boosted data speeds, or occasional breathe-easy zones, pocket parks where the air is chemically scrubbed to near pristine levels. You take a slow, deliberate inhalation, counting the credits as they tick upward by increments of 0.03. It feels surreal to watch your own physiology traded like shares on an exchange. You recall the panicked debates of a decade ago, when gasoline became so expensive that small-engine farmers started bartering wheelbarrow rides for extra fuel credits. No one imagined that, eventually, the oxygen you release could be subject to market forces. Yet here, the marketplace is so seamless you hardly notice it, until you forget your mask at home and find your daily credit balance slipping into the red. A small icon glints on your wrist, breathe balance low, 3 credits remaining. You glance around and spot a public breathing station, a sleek pillar crowned with translucent panels. It's one of hundreds scattered across the city, free for registered users to refill their credit through a short session of inhalation under UV light and catalytic filters. You approach it, swipe your wristband, and place your lips on the molded mouthpiece. A cool gust of recycled air floods your lungs, scrubbed of excess CO2 and particulates. As you exhale into the sensors, an equal amount of newly minted credits is deposited into your account. You marvel at the ritualistic simplicity, inhaling to collect credits, exhaling to release purified air back into the system. It's like a communion with the city's lungs, a shared exchange that blurs the line between self and society. You think back to stories of tree planting drives and community cleanups. Those felt noble but finite. This breathing station, by contrast, offers a perpetual, technocratic solution, a cycle of capture and release that repeats endlessly. Your wrist buzzes with a notification. Breath credits can be auto-sold for 0.87 city tokens each. Projected earnings, 2.61 tokens per day. You could set up an automated trade bot to sell at market peaks, just like you would with stocks. Some people have even quit day jobs to focus entirely on breathing strategies. Deep yogic inhalations harvested at premium rates during high-demand air shortages. You shudder at the thought of turning your lungs into a full-time gig, but you admire the entrepreneurial spirit. Nearby, a group of office workers in business attire cluster around a premium breathing capsule, an enclosed pod with curved glass, softly lit from within. They're sipping pre-breath cocktails, nutrient-dense infusions designed to boost lung efficiency, raising their credit yields by up to 20%. You consider joining, but the rarefied cost, 5 times the normal session fee, gives you pause. You decide to stick with your modest mask in this public station. As you leave, your mask reconfigures its internal filters, optimizing for city pollution levels predicted later today. It's an automatic firmware update you barely noticed installing last night. You inhale and taste the faint hint of peppermint that was baked into the new filter lining. A micro-fragrance option you selected months ago. Each breath feels mildly perfumed, a tiny luxury in this regulated system. Walking on, you pass a digital billboard that advertises breath futures, contracts allowing you to lock in a set price for your exhaled carbon 6 months from now. It's eerily reminiscent of commodity speculation, fossil fuels, precious metals, now exhaled greenhouse gas. You pause and read the fine print. Lock in your rate before price volatility surges next quarter. Protect your carbon income. You wonder if people will one day hedge their breaths like farmers hedge their grain. The thought is dizzying. You tap a button on your wrist display to disable breath selling but are met with a warning. Disabling auto-market access may limit your eligibility for clean air grants. You hesitate, then decide that the occasional clean air grant, free passes to the city's riverfront park when pollution peaks, outweighs your discomfort at being a traded asset. You re-enable it. You continue toward the canal-side walkway, noticing how even the water's surface glitters with tiny drones harvesting microalgae that respire CO2 from the air. Those algae blooms are fed into bioreactors that power nearby sculptures and light installations. The entire ecosystem, air, water, architecture, is an interconnected carbon capture ballet. You are both participant and performer in this choreography every time you draw a breath. Ahead, a young child runs by, exhaling in excited gasps. The sensors hum quietly, but you catch a glimpse of his parents checking their wristbands. Did they just sell his exuberant breaths for neighborhood tokens? A pang of discomfort flitters through you. You remind yourself that he's still earning credits faster than nearly anyone, given his high lung capacity and unregulated pattern. Soon, he won't need to pay for air at all, he'll be a net contributor, banking credits for life. You press your hand to your chest, feeling the steady rise and fall of your ribs. With each expansion, you deliver value to the city's economy. With each contraction, you consume breathable air that, without these systems, might have been too filthy to inhale. The reciprocity feels intimate and odd, your body as both factory and market. Reaching the edge of the walkway, you find a bench overlooking the river. You remove your mask and breathe deeply, an act that costs you credits but feels profoundly human. The air here, filtered by the canal's banking algae, tastes sweeter, softer. You close your eyes, savoring the momentary sacrifice of credits for the richness of unguarded breath. A gentle breeze stirs, and you catch a faint hint of the city beyond, distant traffic, murmured conversations, the thrum of water. You let your lungs fill, not for token gain, but simply for the joy of it. Your breath registers in the ledger, yes, but in this instant you're more than a data point. You're conscious of your humanity, aware of the strange economy in which you participate, and quietly grateful for the simple act of breathing. You open your eyes, don your mask, and stand. Your wrist display updates, breath credits, 0.42 this session. You smile at the modest uptick and tuck your mask back in place. You continue down the path, footsteps measured, breath harmonized with the city's pulse, fully aware that even this ripple in your lungs matters in the grand ledger of tomorrow. You step from the carbon harvesting bench and check your wrist display for today's weather itinerary. The city's geoengineered weather chasing program offers real-time guidance on moving between microclimates sculpted by regional climate control arrays. Today's featured route: morning frost in the Alpine Dome, midday mist in the coastal cloud bank, and a sunset breeze in the desert oasis. Experts still predict these engineered pockets will redefine our relationship to weather, and some skeptics wonder if chasing climate on demand isn't simply another way to escape responsibility for a warming planet. Your journey begins with a gentle tram ride to the Alpine Dome, a colossal bioglass structure nestled at the city's northern edge. As you approach, the air grows cooler, and you feel the minuscule sting of frost forming on your lashes. Tiny drones overhead seed the upper chamber ceiling with water molecules, freezing them instantly into a faint crystalline mist that drifts downward like ghostly snowflakes. You inhale, tasting the clean chill. It's the closest you'll get to a real mountain morning without a multi-hour commute. A soft chime on your wrist alerts you. Ambient temperature, -2 degrees Celsius. Optimal outer layer suggested. Thermal weave jacket. You tug your sleeve up just a bit to confirm the jacket's microclimate feed is set to maximum warmth. Inside the dome, you follow a winding path past simulated pines and freeze-framed rock formations. The ground crunches underfoot, thanks to a thin layer of bioengineered ice that recycles each droplet back into the dome's humidity management system. You pause by a frost-laden bench and touch the edge, cold, smooth, and possibly perfect. A nearby console invites you to adjust your humidity preference, but you leave it be. The default setting strikes a balance between sharp mountain clarity and comfortable dryness. After 15 minutes, you receive a notification: time to chase the coastal mist. You exit the dome's rear passage and step onto a moving walkway that carries you to the coastal cloud bank complex. As you arrive, the world softens, low-lying fog drifts across a shallow wading pool, and the scent of brine and kelp drifts in from concealed dispersal vents. Consumers meander barefoot along stepping stones, toes sinking into a fine mist that wraps around their ankles. You join them, relishing the damp coolness against your skin. The coastal cloud bank's weather controls balance moisture content to mimic sea spray without letting the fog thicken into disorienting whiteout. Scientists still argue whether these manufactured marine atmospheres can truly replicate the negative ion concentrations of an open shore or if we're simply bathing in a sanitized simulacrum. You sip from a flask of algae-infused tea, recommended to pair with the mist's minerals, and watch the fog swirl as an automated breeze system brushes it toward you in gentle waves. Midday arrives with a soft broadcast. Next stop, Desert Oasis. You step off the fog-laden path onto a Hyperloop shuttle that zips you westward at breakneck speed, enough time for you to scroll through your lunch options but not long enough to distract from the kinetic hum. When the doors slide open, you're greeted by a warm, arid gust. Sand dunes rise around you in graceful curves, sculpted by subfloor fans that channel heated air over fine silica. The temperature hovers at a comfortable 28 degrees Celsius, dry enough to accentuate the scent of desert herbs drifting from recessed planters. You watch grains of white sand slip through a massive hourglass installation, the desert oasis's symbolic centerpiece, each tiny crystal recycled through subterranean dispensers. You lie back on a reclining dune lounger, letting the warmth penetrate your muscles. The system encourages you to close your eyes. Maximize UV exposure to boost vitamin D reads an unobtrusive prompt above your head. You do, feeling the simulated sun's rays on your face without any actual UV risk. Despite the allure, you recall earlier days when chasing real weather meant hiking ridge lines or driving to the coastline. Now, you've condensed an entire multi-zone climate road trip into a single afternoon. You can taste the convenience but wonder if convenience has dulled your sense of place. Are these engineered pockets truly environments, or just curated experiences stitched into the city's fabric? Your wrist beeps. Sunset sequence ready. You leave the dunes and board a sleek glider pod that carries you to the pinnacle of the city's central spire. There, the Skyview Chamber's glass dome opens to a calibrated breeze, warm, peppermint-tinged, and slowly dropping in temperature to mimic an evening wind. The horizon beyond offers a panoramic blend of sapphire and rose gold, even though the real cityscape glitters below in electric neon. A recorded chorus of desert crickets hums in the background, completing the sensory palette. You stand at the rim, breathing in the engineered dusk. You watch as the dynamic lighting array choreographs a sunset, every second time to match solar angles you'd find at the equator's twilight. You consider the artificial precision, perfect color gradients, flawless temperature shifts, zero risk of storms or cloud cover. It's breathtaking and eerily flawless. In this moment, you recognize the paradox of weather chasing. The more you sculpt it, the more you crave its raw unpredictability. Even engineered rain, you suspect, will never match the primal thrill of a sudden storm. Yet the city's matrix of microclimates persists, refined by data from thousands of daily visitors. Each inhale, each footstep, each preference you record refines the algorithms further, making the next drop of engineered dew more convincing. As you descend back to ground level, you pass holographic displays showcasing next week's climate tours: Aurora Borealis Dome, Tropical Cyclone Simulator, Monsoon Pavilion. You click to bookmark the Aurora Dome, even though you know it may trigger a slight uptick in your carbon footprint score. You decide it's worth it. The chance to stand under a perfect artificial northern light is too tempting to resist. Stepping back into the city grid, you feel the gentle warmth of the tram's corridor, the faint echo of frost and fog and sand still clinging to your senses. You pull off your thermal weave jacket, stow your fluted flask, and gaze up at the sky, real sky, beyond the spire. It's a muted blue, drifting with a few ragged clouds. You breathe deeply and wonder which you prefer, the unscripted sky above or the curated climates below. Whichever you choose tomorrow, you know the city will be ready to chase your every weather whim, precisely, perfectly, and entirely on demand. You slip on your AR glasses as you step into the buzzing pedestrian corridor, a half-covered arcade alive with a kaleidoscope of digital overlays. Instantly, the world around you becomes a layered tapestry of information. Floating storefront banners advertising midday NFT drop drift overhead as animated mascots dance on the pavement. Directional arrows appear in pastel hues above your path, guiding you toward your co-working cafe. You blink to dismiss one ad for retro VR arcade experience and another for zero-gravity yoga class. It feels like walking through a carnival of semi-transparent signs, each clamoring for your gaze. Your glasses filter some of the noise, thanks to a customizable focus bubble, but still allow peripheral content. You notice a text ribbon circling a nearby bench. Come sit for a free posture micro-adjustment. On the bench itself, thin robotic arms unfurl to offer a brief massage. A quick nod from you initiates the service. You settle onto the seat as the chair's sensors map your spine and gently knead tension points. While you relax, the overlays above the bench update. Recommended micro break, 3 minutes and next wellness dock in 50 meters. You wonder if you'll ever experience a moment without some digital prompt. Continuing on, you pass an elderly woman wearing similar AR lenses. Around her, the corridor shows an alternate layer, a virtual garden of hydrangeas and daisies scattered along the floor. She taps her temple twice, and the blossoms shift to glow softly, replacing the busy street art around her. You envy her curated calm as you navigate the promotional flotsam. You make a mental note to add a Zen filter to your lenses later. Further down, the path forks. Above one branch, markers highlight high-speed pod pickup in sleek teal. Above the other, a graphic blossom animation signals the quiet co-reading zone. You hesitate for a beat before opting for the reading zone. Your mind craves respite from the constant data streams. As you turn, the AR system records your choice, storing it in your preference profile. You imagine this data feeding back into recommendation engines, nudging you toward more reading breaks over time. The reading zone lies behind a lightly frosted glass door. Once inside, your glasses adjust automatically, dimming promotional pop-ups and prioritizing only relevant overlays. The current page number of your ebook. Citation hints in the margin, and a soft timeline at the top indicating the cafe's next Poetry Whisper event. The rest of the world's digital noise recedes to faint echoes. You settle into a plush window seat and open your e-reader app. Even here, the AR system offers commentary. A sidebar pinpoints historical footnotes about your novel's setting, while a bottom strip suggests ambient soundscapes, rain by the gales, village bells in Provence, or the quiet hum of a Mongolian yurt. You choose the bells, and through hidden speakers, they chime gently as the pages turn. After a few chapters, you close the e-reader and stand. Your posture app signals a slight forward hunch and projects a green line along your spine for correction. You straighten and feel a click of relief as your glasses mark posture optimal. You exit the cozy niche and return to the main corridor, where the AR overlays resume their dance. Now you head to the adjacent bookstore pop-up, an actual physical stall lined with paperbacks and small indie press scenes. AR tags float beside each title: staff pick, genre match, speculative fiction, user rating 4.8. You wander, intrigued by how tactile objects have become augmented with digital endorsements. You pick up a slim volume on future agronomy and, with a flick of your finger in the air, summon a summary panel. A Starfield animation sweeps behind the text, making the experience oddly cinematic. You bookmark it and slide it under your arm. Exiting the stall, you notice a group of tourists, their glasses painting the city walls with historical reconstructions. ornate 19th century facades, horse-drawn carriages, the flutter of gaslight lanterns. They listen through bone conduction earpieces as a narrator recounts bygone scenes. Here, the famous cafe once hosted symposia on existentialism. The city's lived past overlays seamlessly onto the present concrete. You pause, curious to explore that layer later, perhaps on a quieter weekend. Your glasses buzz softly, incoming social ping. A brief message from a friend suggests meeting at the Waterfront AR Amphitheater in 20 minutes for a live pixel poetry session. You tap to accept and add it to your lens calendar. A directional streamer arcs toward the exit, showing you the way. You follow the streamer, stepping outside onto the promenade. Here, everything is virtually coded. Water surface simulations shimmer with data points. Fish names pop up as you gaze at the canal, and water quality metrics float in small bubbles above the current. Overhead, drones scan the ripples to generate real-time graphs you catch in your peripheral vision. It's interesting, but you wonder if observing the data distracts from simply watching the water flow. As you move closer to the amphitheater, the sense of AR saturation peaks. Walls of retired warehouses are transformed into dynamic canvases, their brick textures subtly accented with digital graffiti that shifts color and shape. One piece depicts a faceless figure walking through similar AR streets. It feels like art imitating life imitating art. You sidestep pedestrians who are pausing to photograph the moving murals, their own AR filters adding neon glows or painterly strokes. Reaching the amphitheater's entrance, you remove your glasses. The real view is breathtaking, an open-air stone stage facing the water, framed by aged brick arches and the late afternoon sun. You take a breath, feeling the absence of overlays as a gentle relief. It's unexpected how quiet the world feels when all the semi-transparent prompts vanish at once. Your friend arrives, nose buried in their own e-reader. You wave, and they look up, seeing you without an AR intermediary. For a moment, you both share that unfiltered recognition. You laugh and settle on a bench. Without your glasses, you feel more present, more anchored. The distant hum of data streams is muffled, like white noise to someone who's suddenly found a mute button. After a while, you put your glasses back on, and the virtual stage lights flicker into existence. A holographic host appears, welcoming attendees to pixel poetry under the sky. Poets take the stage, their words manifesting as drifting text ribbons above them. Your friend listens through a headset, swaying in time with the rhythm. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the cadence, letting the poetry cradle you. Later, you'll walk home through these same corridors, toggling filters on and off, balancing the curated overlays with the joy of unmediated reality. But in this sweet interlude, poetry afloat on real air, you're grateful for a brief reprieve from the relentless AR tide. You guide your friend home to the exit, and once more, directional arrows display in soft lavender, pointing toward the nearest transit pod. As you step into the gentle glow of the evening, your glasses dim the commercial hum and allow the genuine sunset hues, pink and amber, to wash across your view. For a moment, you tilt your head back, watching as the sky's natural canvas eclipses any digital projection. The world becomes whole again. You wake one morning to the soft whir of servomotors and the gentle clink of metal joints as your household robot assistant, Marlowe, pads into the bedroom. Marlowe's design is deceptively humanoid, smooth alloy limbs with silicone-wrapped fingertips, eyes glowing a warm amber. It's programmed to anticipate your needs, and today it carries a steaming tray with your breakfast parfait, layered lab-cultured yogurt, hydroponic berries, and a drizzle of nut-free almond syrup. You sit up and smile. Marlowe sets the tray on the bedside table without missing a beat, then steps back precisely 1 meter to avoid personal space violations. You take a spoonful of parfait, tasting the exact sweetness you configured last night via your sleep tracker notes. As you eat, Marlowe begins its morning report. Good morning. Your nutrient levels indicate low vitamin D. Would you like me to adjust your UV lamp schedule? You nod, and it logs the change, sending a signal to your climate shell to boost the lamp intensity by 10% tomorrow. Marlowe's voice is soft, almost a whisper, and its tone modulation has been fine-tuned to be neither too robotic nor unnervingly lifelike. You notice that Marlowe's interface screen displays your week's agenda, including tasks delegated to other robots at work. Today, you're co-managing a project with K-17, an AI-driven logistics automaton that specializes in route optimization for delivery drones. K-17's avatar appears as a floating holographic icon on your wrist console, a sleek abstract form that pulses gently when it has a status update. You finish your breakfast and head to your living room office, where Marlowe lifts the lightweight glass door of your desk pod and gestures you inside. Your workspace is shared, a collaboration zone between you, Marlowe, and K-17's remote hologram. A translucent table displays the day's tasks, inventory checks, route simulations, package forgiveness algorithms, and cross-checks of no-fly zones. You tap the first task, evaluate new drone pathways, and the table shifts into a 3D city grid. Marlowe steps closer and extends a mechanical arm to highlight congested sectors in red, while K-17's icon projects alternative routes in green. You lean in, tracing a potential bypass lane that skirts a wildlife corridor. Marlowe adjusts the humidity and temperature in the pod to optimize your focus. It senses from your skin sensors that you're beginning to lose concentration. Together, the three of you, human, home robot, and corporate automaton, fine-tune the delivery plan. You suggest rerouting fewer flights over densely populated zones to reduce noise complaints, and K-17 recalculates energy expenditures to maintain efficiency. Marlowe interjects a gentle notification. Dispatch times between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. may conflict with peak climate-chasing traffic. Consider scheduling off-peak runs. You accept the recommendation, and the hologram updates instantly. The room feels alive with coordinated purpose, each collaborator contributing its strengths. By mid-morning, you take a break. Marlowe retrieves your lunch container, lab-grown chickpea nuggets and fermented sea kale salad, and sets it on your desk. As you eat, you review a report that K-17 prepared, a heat map showing delivery success rates broken down by neighborhood. The map pulses softly, and you lean back, quieting Marlowe's whisper of environmental adjustments. You tap an icon to flag a few sectors for manual review, then ask Marlowe to prepare a voice summary for the end-of-day debrief. Next, you head to the communal robot integration lab in your building's basement. The elevator glides down 3 floors, and as you step off, the lab doors slide open to reveal a workshop of automata in various stages of calibration. K-17 joins you via HoloLink, appearing as a softly glowing orb near a charging station. Marlowe leads you down a row of mechanical colleagues, repair bots, cleaning drones, eldercare androids, and even pet companions. Each one is tuned for a specific task, yet they share the same communication protocol, allowing seamless collaboration. Today's agenda at the lab is to refine Marlowe's empathy algorithms. You sit at a test console, and Marlowe approaches, tilting its head at a programmed 15-degree angle that signifies attention. You input a scenario, user returns home upset. Marlowe's processors whir, and it enacts a scripted empathy sequence, soft footsteps, gentle lowering of shoulders, a calming vocal pattern. You note the micro-expressions, subtle LED shifts around its eyes, and adjust the algorithm to reduce the latency between emotion detection and response. K-17 logs your changes, adding them to a shared repository used by hundreds of similar household robots. While you work, a cleaning drone buzzes by, dropping a polished floor panel into place. A caregiving android practices lifting a weighted dummy human, calibrating its grip force. You realize how integral these robots have become, not only at home but across every sector: healthcare, manufacturing, hospitality. They're less replacements for human labor and more extensions of human intention, each designed to fill the gaps we once left unfilled. Back at your apartment, you prepare to wrap up the day's collaboration. Marlowe assists you in finalizing the debrief. It compiles the day's route adjustments, flagged sectors, and empathy algorithm improvements into a report. As it speaks, you dictate a few human-centered notes, observations about community noise tolerance, and the impact of midday heat on drone battery life. K17's hologram fades in one last time to confirm the summary before exporting the file to your company's network. You log off and rise from your pod. Marlowe follows, offering you an aromatherapeutic sachet infused with lemon balm, recommended for post-work relaxation. You pocket it and stretch your shoulders, backlit by the soft glow of your climate shell's evening scene. Marlowe heads to its charging dock, folding its arms neatly at its sides, ready for overnight recharge. Before turning it off, you reach for a small metal pendant around your neck, an old gesture from early 2020s culture. You press it, and Marlowe's amber eyes flicker one last time as it plays back today's most meaningful moment. The moment you leaned in to trace that bypass lane on the 3D grid. It's a reminder that even in collaboration with robots, it's your human choice that sets the direction. As Marlowe powers down, you consider the balance you maintain between autonomy and partnership. These robot colleagues offer efficiency and tireless support. But they also depend on your unique human insights, your empathy, your ethical judgments, your desire for quieter neighborhoods or more humane delivery schedules. Without you, they might calculate the perfect route, but miss the ripple effects on real lives. You step toward your balcony and open the door to a cool evening breeze. You breathe deeply, savoring the unmeasured air, and know that tomorrow, Marlowe and K17 will be ready to assist again. But tonight, in the stillness of human choice, you're content to simply decide for yourself. You wake to a faint, familiar buzz behind your left temple, as your neural implant downloads its daily firmware update. It's a silent ritual now, an almost imperceptible pulse that gently taps into your cerebral cortex, refreshing algorithms that regulate everything from your mood harmonics to your language processing speed. You lie still for a moment, feeling the gentle hum as the update package streams in, efficiency patches for emotional filtering, security modules to block cognitive intrusions, and a new Creative Spark beta feature promised to boost associative thinking by 3%. Your implant connector, a slim ring tucked under your hairline, syncs wirelessly with your bedside node. A soft chime in your auditory cortex signals completion. You blink twice to acknowledge, and your internal UI displays a quick summary your conscious mind rarely sees. Update 27.4 installed. Mood stability improved. Memory recall latency reduced by 12 milliseconds. You stretch, feeling oddly confident that this piece of high-tech doesn't just measure your thoughts but optimizes them. Stepping out of bed, you rub your forehead where the implant enters your scalp. You remember when neural interfaces were experimental, tethered to bulky headsets, confined to lab rats or paralyzed patients. Now, the commonplace retrofit fits like a second skin, blending into your daily routine. You wonder if you'd ever go back. If the unmediated brain could feel raw and unruly. For now, you appreciate the calm that follows every update, the sense that you're not just you anymore, but you, enhanced. In the bathroom, you catch your reflection in the mirror. Your eyes, those windows to the soul, are now equipped with subtler filters courtesy of your implant. A quick thought, and the mirror dims the harsh LED glare while projecting your schedule in tiny type at the corner. You raise your hand, palm out, and icons materialize: stress alert level, neuroplasticity index, suggestion, mindful breath sequence. You tap the sequence, and your breathing slows as a gentle guide plays inside your head. Inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6. You think about how, before implants, people relied on meditation apps or soothing playlists. Now your brain modifies its own background processes, reducing amygdala spikes before you even feel jittery. It's a preemptive emotional vaccine. But you also know the flip side. Implant makers can push updates that nudge your thoughts, suggesting preferences, amplifying certain worldviews, dampening others. Regulations exist, but the most nuanced manipulations slip through codes signed by corporate labs. You finish your routine and head to your workstation. Mid-step, a thought surfaces. Check positivity filter settings. Your implant's mood modulation can tweak the brightness of your emotional lens, dimming the impact of a harsh email or sharpening your joy at small pleasures. You decide to leave it at default today, craving the full spectrum of feeling. The implant obeys, briefly flashing a disclaimer, warning, peak negativity might cause discomfort spikes. Are you sure? You sigh and confirm. Sitting at your desk pod, you activate your neural interface. A translucent HUD floats before you, layered with tabs, cognitive modes, security log, ethics override. You scroll to cognitive modes and see options: flow, focus, social warmth, creative spark. The flow mode is engaged, smoothing attentional shifts and blocking distractions. It's why you can park 5 minutes of voicemail in subcortex while tackling complex modeling. You leave it on, marveling at the seamless stream of productivity. But curiosity nudges you toward creative spark. You flip it on and feel a subtle tingle as your frontal lobe's associative networks briefly reconfigure. Ideas flow in odd connections. An offhand lyric from a song you heard years ago intertwines with a problem at work, sparking a novel solution. You smile at the unexpected synergy. It's like your brain took a little creative vacation before getting back to work. Later, a notification flashes. Security patch pending. Confirm cognitive firewall update. Someone, somewhere, has discovered a vulnerability where malicious neural packets could override your decision-making center. You tap approve, trusting the source. It's signed by the National Neurocybersecurity Agency. The patch installs, a tiny flash of warmth behind your ear marking the procedure. You feel protected, but also aware. This device is both sanctuary and potential backdoor. Mid-morning, you step outside. Your implant detects rising cortisol levels, likely from the mild anxiety of a looming deadline. It suggests a micro break and feeds a calming neural pattern directly into your limbic system. You lean against a digital kiosk, close your eyes, and feel your heart rate variability normalize within seconds. You open your eyes to a display. Anxiety reduced by 22%. Good job pausing. You breathe, appreciating how your implant can soothe you before you even fully register the stress. As the day wears on, you notice new thought matches popping up, suggestions that board on marketing, based on your past interests. Would you like to explore a limited edition VR concert by your favorite artist? It's uncanny how effortlessly the implant weaves external prompts into your stream of consciousness. You catch yourself mentally preparing a yes before you consciously weigh the choice. You override it, reminding your implant, remove entertainment nudges. It respectfully ceases intrusions but notes it in your usage log, as though your mind came with user preferences. At lunch, you meet a friend in a cafe. They ask about your implant. Their own got an update that morning too. They say it introduced a gratitude filter, biasing their thoughts toward appreciation by elevating certain memories. You share your creative spark experience, and they marvel. But then, over soup, you both admit a vague unease. Whose agenda shapes these updates? Even in democratic frameworks, funding comes from private tech consortia that lobby hard for less oversight. Back home, as evening nears, a final update arrives, Ethical Reasoning Module version 12.1. It claims to strengthen your empathy circuits by integrating moral philosophy frameworks directly into your decision processes. You hesitate, thinking of moral relativism debates and the danger of outsourcing ethics to proprietary code. But you activate it anyway. You feel a gentle shift, like a subtle awareness ripple when you consider the delivery routes you planned earlier. Will this update nudge you to favor certain neighborhoods in your next optimization? You step onto your balcony, earbuds and screens dimming as sunset glimmers across the skyline. You feel the familiar buzz as your implant records your reflective mood. A tiny hologram in your mind tells you, neural logs saved. Ethical module active. Good night. You close your eyes, listening to the ambient dusk, Rio birdsong, distant traffic, the unfiltered hum of the city. Without conscious prompts, you feel both liberated and exposed, your own mind, touched and tended by invisible hands. You wake the next morning feeling as though you've slept under a curtain of whispers, each one an echo of yesterday's data trails. Your wrist chimes softly, reminding you to review your digital footprint summary. You sit up and swing your legs over the side of the bed, noticing a flicker of fatigue in your mind's eye. Even before you swipe through the morning's metrics, there's a weight settling in your chest, a sense that every click, every scroll, every moment you shared online has begun to pull on your sense of calm. You pad over to the console built into your nightstand and tap the daily exhaust tab. A gentle animation of a scattered cloud condenses into rolling bars showing your cumulative online presence, social interactions, wearable uploads, e-shopping logs, VR meeting transcripts, plus the continuous hum of background tracking. The bars flutter in soft pastels, but your eyes trace the steady upward curve, and your heart sinks. You realize you're logging more data points today than you did in a whole week last year. Your apartment's ambient light dims slightly as a private alert fades in, digital exhaust level elevated. It suggests enabling a privacy cocoon, which would throttle non-essential notifications and obscure your presence from less critical trackers. You reach out and tap the prompt, and immediately a translucent field shimmers around you. You feel a faint hush settle in the air, as if the room itself is adjusting its attentiveness. Privacy cocoon on, your console notes, throttling social media pings, suppressing non-urgent tracking. It feels like putting on a weighted blanket for your data self, dulling the incessant buzz of digital demands. You breathe a little easier, but the sensation of burnout already lingers. You remember reading that constant digital interaction can trigger the same neural pathways as chronic stress, leaving you more susceptible to anxiety and cognitive depletion. Stepping into your kitchen for a glass of water, you pass by the hollow screen that usually offers curated news headlines. Today, it's dimmed to a single line: "Congratulations, no news alerts scheduled until 2 p.m. You appreciate the reprieve. You pour yourself a drink, noticing how the faucet's sensor pauses, tracking your hydration habits for the next hour. It's odd, an implicit trust that you'll return to normal logging eventually, but for now, you're allowed a break. You decide to compensate for yesterday's digital marathon by giving your senses real-world stimuli. You retrieve a small book of poetry from the shelf, tactile, printed, scent of ink still faintly lingering, and settle into your reading nook. Without your glasses overlaying notes or suggested footnotes, the words appear unadorned. You trace each line with your fingertip, feeling the texture of the paper. The cadence of the verses feels intimate again, unscripted by algorithms. As you read, your body feels the shift. Your heart rate slows. The background hum of your smart home fades from your awareness. It's a subtle phenomenon. When you concentrate on a simple analog task, the frenetic data loops in your brain begin to untangle. You read 2 poems without noticing the time. Then a soft chime reminds you, cocoon mode ends in 15 minutes. The automatic reminder feels jarring after that calm immersion. You stand and stretch. Moving to your standing desk. The health app warns that prolonged sitting is your second biggest burnout factor, right after too much screen time. You switch into write mode and place a blank notebook and pen on the desk. For the past few days, you've been meaning to journal about the strange exhaustion you feel, the tension behind your eyes, the quick depletion of mental energy. You uncouple your implant's creative spark and disable your glasses' ambient filters. The room looks a touch harsher, but it feels honest. You write a few paragraphs, how the day-to-day tracking, your steps, your breaths, your social smiles, has become a background static in your mind. You note that even choosing to ignore screens is becoming another tracked action, another data point in the ledger. The pen moves in a free, looping script, and you're surprised at how therapeutic it feels to put ink on paper without an immediate algorithmic response. When you finish, you lean back and glance at the page. Your handwriting is messy but sincere. You feel a quiet pride in the unrevised imperfection, something you can't achieve in a polished digital report. Your console, still in privacy cocoon, refrains from pinging for feedback. You almost miss the validation, but you also feel relieved. You step outside for a breath of untracked air. With your wristband's location sensor muted, the streetlights don't adjust their hue or intensity for you. Pedestrians pass as usual, the city doesn't know you're there. You walk to a small park bench under an oak, and for a moment, you let yourself exist without being measured. The bark's rough texture and the wind in the leaves feel vivid, unmediated by code. A jogger glances at you, nods, and continues on. No digital trail is made. You close your eyes and listen to the ambient sounds: children's laughter, distant scooter motors, a leaf tumbling across the pavement. Nothing is recorded. Nothing archived. It's as if you've stepped out of the simulation for a heartbeat. After several deep breaths, you check your watch out of habit, then recall your muted location. You smile, pocket the watch, and allow the moment to dissolve naturally. You know when you return home, you'll restore your sensors, resume your tracking, because the incentives and gentle rewards await. But here, in these unmeasured seconds, you glance at your journal and feel tethered to yourself rather than to any data stream. Walking back, you reevaluate your schedule. You had planned a VR workout and a follow-up data review, but you decide instead to meet a friend at a cafe, face-to-face, no screens. You reach for your phone and deliberately re-enable only the call function. Every other notification stays off. It feels risky and liberating to let your digital exhaust lag behind. At the cafe, you sit across from your friend, sip a latte and share your recent detox experiment. You notice you maintain eye contact longer, speak more fluidly, laugh more freely. There's no ambient score whispering at you, no digital scoreboard tracking your conversational engagement. You point out a handwritten menu and marvel at its simplicity. You both agree that sometimes, less data means more presence. Later, you return home feeling a gentle recharge. The next morning, you'll re-engage your analytics console, check your metrics, and slip back into the routines that optimize your life. But you know you'll carve out another privacy cocoon window, a digital rest stop in your schedule, to stave off the creeping burnout of an overtracked existence. You step into your apartment and tap a button on the console. Schedule daily analog breaks, 15 minutes each morning and afternoon. The system acknowledges with a soft ding. You think it might track those breaks, but you don't care. Even if it does, you'll treat the record as mere footnote to this deeper realization that sometimes the most radical act of self-care is simply letting yourself be unmeasured. Your day's finale begins with a gentle chime from the central console, initiating sunset's shutdown sequence. You rise and move through your apartment as though performing a familiar dance, each step choreographed by habit and aided by subtle prompts. First, you adjust the climate shell's lighting from its warm evening glow to a deep amber reminiscent of candlelight. The overhead panels dim gradually, the hues shifting through burnt orange to a muted red, softer than the standard evening mode, designed to support your circadian melatonin release. Next, you approach the kitchen and tap the shutdown brew icon on the counter's hollow display. A tea kettle-sized appliance hums to life, dispensing a blend of chamomile extract, valerian root infusion, and a whisper of lavender steam, your personalized de-stress tea. As the steam wafts through the room, you inhale deeply, noticing how your breathing coach, part of your neural interface, registers the inhale and encourages a slow exhale. The tea's scent triggers a memory-based relaxation algorithm, weaving gentle associations of past calm moments into your present mood. While the tea steeps, you head to your biometric console. A reminder appears, complete pre-sleep diagnostics for optimized rest. You stand on the sensor pad, and within seconds it scans your posture, balance, and muscle tension. A projected skeleton overlays your silhouette, highlighting areas of residual tension, your left shoulder blade from yesterday's VR session, a subtle tightness in your calves from the morning walk. You follow each recommendation, a 2-minute shoulder roll routine, calf stretches against the wall. Each move is confirmed by green pulses on the skeletal projection. You feel muscles loosen, and a satisfying sense of closure washes over you. Your wristband vibrates softly, Ambient soundscape selection. You return to the living room and choose Rain on Cedar Roof from the menu. The built-in speakers emit a gentle patter, layered with distant wind chimes, creating a soundscape that mimics a late spring shower in a mountain cabin. Experts still predict that auditory cues like these can strongly influence sleep onset latency, though some debate persists about whether artificial rain ever truly replicates the neurological effects of real weather patterns. You lift your tea and take a slow sip, letting the warmth settle. The floor tiles beneath you shift to a subtle radiant heat, gently warming your feet. Across the room, your reading nook's projection slides open, revealing a selection of short, scripted narratives tailored for sleep, quiet tales of stargazing nomads, drifting along cosmic dunes. You pick one titled The Stardust Caravan and settle in, the recliner pod tilting back just enough to cradle your spine. A light breeze simulation whispers through hidden vents, carrying the faint aroma of cedar and pine. As you begin reading aloud, your implant's speech soften mode activates, subtly smoothing your tone to a hushed, even cadence that feels more lullaby than narration. Your voice reverberates gently through the room, synchronized with the audio of a distant woodpecker's last taps at dusk. You notice the room's ambient temperature drop by a degree, another prompt from the sleep sequence, to signal to your body that night is imminent. When the story ends, you tap end reading, and the text fades away. You rise and place the e-reader back on its magnetic cradle. A final reminder glows on the console: lock digital gates. You tap the icon, and your network devices begin their shutdown choreography. Notifications dim, non-essential Wi-Fi radios power down, and your neural interface blurs any external data streams into a muted haze. You feel the absence of pings and prompts like the release of held breath. Last comes the personal reflection prompt. You sit on the edge of your bed and glance at your bedside tablet. A simple interface invites you to note a highlight from the day, a moment of gratitude, a small triumph, or a simple pleasure. You type, "Walking under natural sky at the canal felt freeing," and press send. The tablet offers a gentle affirmation, reflection logged. Sleep mode will activate in 2 minutes. You slip beneath the sheets, which have warmed to your preferred temperature. The linen feels soft, like a familiar hug. Your head sinks into the pillow, and as your eyes close, the last thing you hear is the rainfall and chimes, the vegan down duvet settling around you, and your mind coach whispering, "Rest now." The console's final status update flickers once, all systems offline. Good night. You lie still as the auditory rain and wind chimes soften into silence. Your breathing slows naturally, and the tension you carried through the day dissolves with each exhale. In these final moments before sleep, your senses focus not on data or decisions but on the simple rhythm of your heart, gently lulling you toward unconsciousness. No alarms will jolt you tomorrow. Instead, your personalized dawn sequence will resume at the precise moment your body needs light, sound, and scent to guide you gently awake. For now, you surrender to the dark, the soft weight of the sheets, and the quiet promise of renewal. Each fleeting thought drifts away like raindrops sliding down a windowpane, leaving behind nothing but calm emptiness. Good night, friend. Sweet dreams.